Hello and welcome back once again. It's time for the Golden Age of DC Comics 365 days, where I take this well-beloved coffee table book. And what goes great with a coffee table book? A coffee table, some coffee table friends, pull up a chair, bring a cuppa, and let's have some coffee with this coffee table. And this coffee table conversation about comic books. I want to recreate those comic book conversations we used to have in ye old comic book shop many moons ago when the earth was young and so was I. And yeah, I'm using this 365-day book for its intended purpose. It was given to me about 2 decades ago by one of my best friends. It's been surfing my coffee table ever since. It's a great source of conversation. This is a 2004 Abrhams publication, hardcover, written and curated by Les Daniels, Chip Kidd, and Geoff Spear. There's a link in the description if you'd like your own copy. Last time I checked, it was $7.50 American on Amazon. And you can get your own copy there. Play along at home. Give it as a gift. I got it as a gift. It was wonderful. If you love a comic book person, this makes a really awesome gift. And you can play along at home. So we're going to crack open the book. We're going to look at some comic book art. We're going to read today's blurb. And then we're going to talk about comic books every day for the rest of the year. Yeah, we're going to do it. And 3 o'clock U.S. Eastern tomorrow. Tune in. But yeah, let's look at this art. And then we're going to read the blurb. And then we're going to talk about comic books. That's cute, huh? Comics. Funny books. Funnies. All right. You wouldn't perchance be getting ready to catch Flippity, would you? Now, what would give you a silly idea like that? Like how to catch canaries. He's got some bird seed. He's all set. Look how stressed out the little birdie is. So let's read the blurb, and then we're going to talk about comic books. And this is from the cover of Flippity and Flop number 13 from December 1953, January 1954. Today is May the 29th, and I hope you're having an awesome May the 29th. It's summer's coming. Tomorrow's Memorial Day, and that starts the summer season. And I'm just full of gratitude. I'm very grateful you're here tuning in. If you love comics as much as I do, you've come to the right place at the right time. And we're just going to have, some comic book talk. I love this stuff. All right, so this dumb animal's version of Eternal Triangle involves a bird, a cat, and a dog. The bird and the cat get billing, but the dog named Sam does not. Perhaps his unseen owner should have thought of something alliterative instead. As is usually the case with cartoon cats, Flop is the tragic hero, doomed to be pummeled by Sam for each attempt to feed on Flippity, yet destined to try again and again. A fat feline with a wimpy red bow, Flop isn't much of a threat and doesn't even look especially hungry, although he perpetually risks life and limb to remain true to his nature. Yeah, and this is part of the Golden Age of DC Comics. This is a DC publication from 1954, a year before the end of the Golden Age. And also, superhero comics were in decline. And that happened about a few years after the end of World War II. So by 1948, you had Green Lantern and Flash losing their solo series, and eventually the All-Star Squadron will go away. And so Batman, Superman, Action, Detective Comics, Wonder Woman, World's Finest are a few of the superhero DC comics that got published continually through the end of the Golden Age. But what replaced those publications were lots of kids magazines, and something I meant to get into earlier, because one of the competitors for DC Comics and Timely Comics and Fawcett and Quality and Charlton was most definitely Archie Comics. I mean, hello, Archie Andrews, Betty, Veronica, Jughead, Reggie, the Riverdale gang. Archie Comics were huge. We're going to talk about Archie Comics real quick. But also, I'm looking at this list of 1950s titles. And a lot of things were targeted at kids. And Archie Comics were huge into that. Not only did they have Archie and all the Archie spin-offs, which were huge. I grew up with Archie Comics. Those were mostly in digest format, and they were in the supermarket by the checkout counter. And that was also like, oh, can I get a comic book? And like, yeah. Here you go, kid. Shut up, kid. Have a comic book. Here's your funny pages. So there was Pat the Brat from 1955, Archie Comics. There was The Adventures of Pipsqueak in 1959 by Archie. There was Little Jinx by Archie. They seem to also share a style, a house style. Little Jinx was 1956. There was Little Archie that showed like grade school versions of our high school heroes. In 1956, there was Melvin the Monster, and this was a knockoff of the extremely popular Dennis the Menace. You might even know Dennis the Menace in your cultural literacy, but Melvin the Monster was on Atlas Comics. Atlas Comics was formerly Timely, and Atlas will become Marvel Comics. So there was Melvin the Monster on Atlas, and he was in 1956. There was Little Zelda in 1956. There was Willie the Wise Guy on Atlas Comics in 1957. There was Dexter the Demon on Atlas Comics in 1957. Over on DC, you had Sugar and Spike, toddlers who were getting into hijinks in 1956, and the list literally is going on and on. Archie Comics, though, Archie Comics were huge. Archie Comics started in September of 1939 as MLJ magazines. There was a series of movies starring Andy Rooney, who was he was a child star and a young actor in Hollywood. He had the Andy Hardy movies, and Andy Hardy was this normal teenager, and the Andy Hardy movies were such an inspiration to have a comic book about a relatable, normal person. Teenage Archibald Chick Andrews debuted with Betty Cooper, Jughead Jones in Pep Comics number 22, December of 1941. Okay, so 1941, we're right in the middle of our golden age, and especially the golden age of DC Comics. Well, Archie's always been a competitor to DC Comics. So Archie soon became MLJ Magazine's headliner, which led to the company changing its name to Archie Comics Publications in 1946. Archie Comics were huge, and they still are today. I mean, there was a huge relaunch in the early 2000s, about 2011, 2010. I was involved heavily in buying in like 2013, 14 to about 16 Afterlife with Archie, which was the Walking Dead meets Archie Comics. It was really interesting, and it was a really big disappointment, and but also it happens in comics. Sometimes they don't fulfill, and sometimes they don't come through on the promise to finish the story. I kind of had enough with Archie Comics after that. There was supposed to be 2 more issues. Issues 11 and 12 never got published. The story never was finished, and it was such a good series. It broke my heart as a comic book fan. But you know what heals my heart as a comic book fan? talking about comics with you every day for the rest of the year. So you tune in tomorrow, 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern. We'll figure out who we're talking about when we turn the page tomorrow. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe. I would love to earn your subscription. I make daily content. I also talk a lot about spirituality. Hashtag lighten up. It's about enlightenment and how spirituality can make your daily life better. I also, I'm a professional chef. I share with you some cooking hacks and a lot of my soup videos, which are pretty darn popular. It's delicious, nutritious, and beautiful food. I want to share it with you, and so you can share with your loved ones. So yeah, so tune in. And thank you so much for being part of this conversation. You can be part of the conversation. Leave a comment or a question. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so very much. God bless. Namaste. Good luck, and we'll see you tomorrow, okay? Bye-bye.